Welcome to the State of the Game for Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. And today I'm joined by two of our fellow community members, Sleepy and Casper, who are both extremely experienced in the solo community along with small mans and eights. They play competitively. Anyway, I want to welcome both of them. Sleepy's joining us by camera.
Hey everybody.
He's here with us, and then Casper's just chicken on a skateboard, which
Yep.
which will serve all of the purposes for tonight, I think. So
Hope so.
right, I just want to go through very quickly the list and the topics for tonight. There's not many that were submitted, so we'll probably go to chat topics a little bit later on. We're going to talk about the Valentine's Day event tonight, the community, any suggestions potentially for welcoming new returning players, why you Zerg so much, valid question. We will talk about that. Talking about pets and pet pathing. I know Casper has quite a bit to say about pet pathing at this point. Is there any real advantage other than social to Guild being in an alliance? Fletcher advertising their trade week. We'll talk about crafting. When is fighting? We will cover when is fighting, I'm sure, in great detail. Classic progressive server, and tonight's guests have any advice for people interested in learning to solo and duo. We will definitely cover all those things. I also want to go over very quickly to the grab bag, which was posted last Friday. You can see all of this on darkageofcamelot.com. There's some stuff about RAs and the Order of Ability override, resists and miscalculations for caster bolts, and savage stuff, quad hits, Bracer of the Deep. There's a lot here. They did a great job with, or Beeb did a great job with the scrap bag. So anyway, maybe we'll start with the Valentine's Day event, and we'll go to Sleepy first. What do you remember what it was last year, and did it bring anything to the solo community? Was there an angle for soloers there?
I didn't participate in the event last year. Really couldn't advise on that. I think the greatest benefit that I'm going to have as a solo this year is the fact that I've recently gotten into collecting trophies. So I'm kind of excited about that Cupid. But no, I didn't participate in the event last year. Really couldn't say.
Gotcha. Casper, were you around at that point? Did you get involved in the Valentine's Day event?
I played it a bit. It's got a nice little rock bracer. I don't believe it has a use, so it's not anything crazy, but it's a nice little bonus. The main thing I'm looking forward to is just the RP bonus, which applies to everyone.
Yeah, that's true. I am looking forward to server-wide bonuses for sure. I think we heard that Thursday this week, so in just a few days we'll get more information from Broadsword about the Valentine's Day event, and I'm kind of excited and looking forward to that. We'll get to the next question, which is, does the community have any suggestions on ways to be more welcoming to new and returning players? I've always thought that resources were an issue. I don't know about you guys, but returning players that have been gone for more than a few years, folks that are brand new to the game, I think the biggest uphill battle is just understanding the layout of the game, understanding all of the abilities, the classes, the variations in spec lines. Maybe we can talk about that, and then I also kind of want to pivot a little bit to templating and talk to you guys about that. So what do you think, Sleepy, what do you think the biggest uphill battle is for folks rejoining the game, and where do you think the community can step up and do more?
I think that the community is the answer to that issue. Most of what we do in Dark Age right now is community driven. Development seems to be focusing most of the resources into the classic server that I know we're going to talk about later, but I'd like to see the mentor program get activated again. And I'm sure within this community, there are many volunteers out there that would agree to do that. So facilitating a means for returning players to get connected to a mentor to just quickly get them acclimated on the radical changes that we've had to not only gear, but abilities. Um, opening lines of communication so returning and new players don't feel alone on an island. Can be very overwhelming. It's a 20-year-old game, so obviously there's going to be nuances that are quite overwhelming, even for somebody that may have played the game 10 or 15 years ago. So I think connecting with a mentor, making sure that resources such as Discord are pointed out, and maybe there's some attention drawn to Discord in the tutorial. And then again, I'll go back to the mentor program. I think that that's something that I would support myself in and be a willing participant in.
Are you talking about the team leads, the team lead program, or something different?
No, just not a team lead, just simply a mentor.
Like to have in WoW, where like it puts like an icon over a player's head.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Just a simple means of coding that, when activated, a player can list themselves as a mentor. Maybe there's some sort of a quick vetting process that development can go through just to make sure that you are committed to being a mentor, and obviously no gain out of it other than the intrinsic value of just knowing that you're helping increase the confidence of a new or returning player, which in turn might prolong their return to the game.
Sure. Yeah, I think having somebody to reach out to and talk to is important. And while the official Discord, I think, is a great resource for folks, finding a good guild and finding people that know how to play or maybe cater to your play style, maybe understand the classes, or at least have inventory in the realm that you want to play so that they can help you equip your tune and at least get you off the ground is important. Casper, you've come sort of back and forth in and out of the game. You play other MMOs. Curious to know what the difference is between, for somebody that doesn't play other MMOs, between DAoC and something like WoW, and maybe something that we could learn or take away from the experience over on the other game.
On getting into it?
Yeah, just sort of getting up and running. What sorts of resources does WoW provide, or players in that community? Is there something that maybe are there takeaways, something that we could learn from that?
WoW to begin with just has so many more players, right? So if you load up Twitch and go to streams, you're gonna find hundreds of people streaming for almost any class, right? And any content. So a lot more people live that you can ask questions to. Because of that, people also have a lot of YouTube, so there's a lot more YouTube content. DAoC has a good amount, or not a good amount, but good content. I know Obi or Obelisk has videos on YouTube. I don't think he has it for every class, but those videos are very good. I suggest anyone who doesn't understand something about their class or someone new looking to play a new one to go watch those. DAoC has good content like WoW does for learning. It's just not as much. So if you're not specifically looking for it, you're not going to find it. And that's another problem people have, is a lot of people who will come back to the game and post on the forum saying I had all these problems XYZ is probably the same person who didn't even enter the Discord and ask people who are actually currently playing, right? They probably logged in, went to LFG and asked for some help to random other people. They just didn't find the right people to ask, I guess. They didn't search hard enough.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, sure it does. So I think it's about, in part, it's about connecting with the right people, I guess, first and foremost.
Just say, if I can do a quick jump in.
Yeah, of course.
Along the lines of the topic we're in, the new player experience before somebody even really gets out of the tutorial, a quick pop-up, a quick survey, asking them what type of gameplay do they aspire to do? Do they want to get into Zerg gameplay? Do they want to get into group gameplay? Do they want to solo? And then from there, once you ask those initial questions, kind of drill down at that point in time. Okay, if you select solo, then the development team would suggest doing this, getting connected with this mentor who is currently online right now, or a /command/mentor is available to help you right now.
Yeah,
I back that up. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, from what I understand, just looking at the bug tracker, there's an in-game advisor system, but it's broken at the moment, and there is an open ticket for it. But I think it does, to your point, Sleepy, I think it goes like a step far and beyond that, right? It needs to, where it's far more engaging for folks. It's not just about there being advisors, but there really being a path to getting to the right person, and figuring out who that is up front. Casper, tell me a little bit about your and Sleepy, I don't know your templating skills. I'm sure you're great at building temps. I just know of Casper, and the templates that you put out. What's the like at a very basic level, like a good resource for people that are coming back to the game to start with items and gear? Where should they go first?
To find already built temps or to make their own?
Yeah, I think probably already built temps, because once you get into building your own, I think that's probably a podcast on its own, right? So just like getting back into the game, where should somebody start?
I think the first thing someone should do when they're looking for a temp is look at the items they have. If you go into Bounty Craft and look at your freezing vest and your set, and depending on your class, depending on what you're doing, you can judge, what bonus you kind of want from there. Even if it's not, maybe it's the worst of the two, but you want to play around it, right? Then you go to Discord. Utils has been buggy, so it's not as good as it used to be, but you can go to Utils and find temps that have the freezing vest or the set, depending on your class, on what you want. You could go to Discord. There's so many people who just temp for fun, or just can whip up a temp with almost anything in 10 minutes for like the basic player, right? So you can go to Discord, say, hey, I want this sort temp and I want full set and then Tablet of Atlantis because I like the Croc. And I bet you there's 3-4 people that could just whip it up instantly from each style, right? So from 3 to 4 soloers that would care to, there's probably a couple 8-manners. Even Zergers probably could do it. Obviously, quality of it will vary depending on what style they come from and what they think's necessary, but just asking other people for it.
Yeah,
pretty easy.
And DAoC Utils is a great solution. Hops, I know there's been some bugs with it, and Hops has been working on it. I don't know if he's actively supporting it anymore. I think maybe for newer temps. But this is a great place to go. It's DAoCutils.com, and you can search by class, and you kind of have to flip through and see, and you also have to know what you're looking for, because maybe like at a very basic level. But if you're a step beyond returning or new, and you're looking for something specific, there's some really great pre-built stuff there. Sleepy, what about you? What do you think are there some fundamentals that people need to cover when they're coming back in for items?
Sure. The first thing is identifying what type of game you want to play, because a template for solo is going to be a little bit more complicated. When a player builds a solo template, it's going to be a little bit more intimate, because they're going to invest more time in a template that they're creating for their own personal use. They're going to spend time looking for that rogue item that's the perfect fit, that gets them the healing bonus that they want, or the duration that they want, things of that nature. I can't do anything to expand on what Casper said, because he answered the question perfectly, other than to say it's all about communication in Discord. For those, and I can tell you for a fact, for those that like making templates, they also like talking about templates.
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age, it's so easy to craft a basic template with top tier items. There's at least 4 or 5 items that are a staple in most templates these days. So the process is not nearly as overwhelming. It's just a matter of connecting the resources to shrink down the complexity, to let people know, okay, listen, I just built this Zerker template, but there's 5 items in this Zerker template that also work in this class's template or that class's template. So, starting off with the basics, connecting them with the resources, and then as they accumulate more assets in the game, then going after the higher end items like your Pendragons and your tournament rings.
Sure. And Chesser in chat brings up bounty crafting, which is important too. that's brand new to the game. Well, brand new, relatively new to the game, where you can spend bounty points instead of going to DF, right? So you can RVR and then you can get gear from RVR or doing BP quests or killing mobs that drop BPs. So that's a brand new thing that that's just come back or has just been introduced to the game, at least in the last couple of years.
On the
Yeah, go ahead.
on the note of bounty crafting, so many people who go and advise, what does this set proc do, right? Or the freezing vest do for this class, or the set do for this class. Apparently most people don't know you can go and like delve the item in bounty craft and it'll tell you what it does, right? You don't have to have someone on that class to go figure it out or go to util. Everyone has access to it in the bounty craft like menu.
Yeah, so it's all there.
I think it's also important to bear in mind too that, and I don't need to tell either of you this, but the Dark Age community is a very tight-knit community right now, and as our population is lower than what we would like it to be, most of the players that have been around for a while have accumulated a lot of assets, and they're so eager to open up Dark Age to new players and returning players. So they have the resources to where I know personally I've given out items to returning players. I'm not giving out Pendragons,
Right.
but at the same time, which is just crazy. If you look in the trade channel, those things went from a game time code to now the going price for those is up to 2,200 mithril. So that's unbelievable. But that's another topic. The economy in general. Bottom line, connecting with some seasoned players. A lot of us have. We have to buy 2 mansions to accommodate enough vault space. So we're happy to give away items if it's going to incentivize. If it's going to get somebody excited to play the game, to see that they're a fresh 50 and 2 or 3 people have hooked them up with top tier items, it's going to be a really good motivating factor. And then of course your streams, obviously. I think your most exciting streams, in my opinion, from the giveaway standpoint, were when you were firing off those cursed templates. That was huge.
Yeah, they're huge, but also incredibly expensive. So
then you gotta reach out to your resources because we're here to support you too. So don't feel like you have to carry that weight on your own.
Appreciate that. That means a lot. Yeah, the curse templates are fun to give out. It's an enormous burden to try and produce those, especially when you're giving so many out. As anybody that's building a template knows, like how difficult it is just to pull items, and then we're talking about all 3 realms. But there have been people that have reached out, and my hope is that also access to macro teams that can go do DF is like almost as crucial, right? Because if I have access to a macro team that can go do DF runs on all 3 realms, then sky's the limit in terms of being able to give stuff away. So that's sometimes a limiting factor. But I appreciate that. And I want to talk about both of your streams individually too here coming up in just a minute. There is a topic, and I left this in just for the sake of transparency, which is why you Zerg so much. And it's a legit question, and I think we should talk about that. And I think I might have an answer that pisses some people off, but it's truthful. The answer is, and we can talk about why everybody plays. Maybe I can pass this question along to Sleepy and to Casper. But the reason I Zerg so much is that I actually stream all of the Zerg stuff because that is, at least historically, been the stuff that people watch, in my opinion. That's true for my channel. It's not true for everybody else's channel. I've played a lot more battle group stuff and Zerging than I have 8-mans, and certainly more than I've done smallies and solos. Most of my play is in 8s, but most of the visible stuff, most of the visible stuff is Zerging. A step back from that would be 8s, and then I play other playstyles far less. But you guys see the stream and you see me Zerging, and because that's what I stream. But my preferred play would be 8v8. That's where I have the most fun. If I was able to convince enough of my friends who are on HIB that would actually run an 8 on a normal night, I would do it. I prefer that way more. But there's a reason why you see me Zerging so much, and it's because it's really for the stream. And if you don't believe me, look at the face that I gave to the stream all night tonight. The sheer frustration as to what was occurring. I just wanted to give stuff away. I didn't want to be running down him and Alb or Mid and Alb all night. But that's my answer. Sleepy, what draws you to? I mean, you are a you're. I think would you consider yourself like a soloer at heart? I mean, you stream pretty much exclusively solo, right?
I stream 100% solo.
Tell me what draws you to that particular play style.
So, I'll try to shrink my answer down to that, but there's a couple different reasons, starting from simple logistics. Okay, I am married with 2 small children, so AFK is common for me.
Sure.
So 8v8 impossible. I'm not going to bring down my group because I need to AFK from time to time. Certainly not going to do that in the Zerg scene. So I'm going to try to give an answer here that doesn't sound too corny, but there is a very intrinsically rewarding feeling that goes along with you winning a fight or losing a fight on your own merits and your own abilities, rather than being reliant on other people, rather than running the risk of you being the one that gets the 8-man wiped. I'm in control of my destiny, so to speak. And I like being able to test myself, and I like being able to review the fights that I'm in, because it gives me a sense in hindsight of what I could have done better. But there's no greater feeling than you against 1 or 2 other people, or 3 in the state of the game that we're in right now, and coming out on top. It's a fantastic feeling, and it has nothing to do with having an ego. It just is an internal sense of being heavily reliant on yourself and your own abilities. It's the best way I can answer that question.
I think it's a great answer. There is a much for people who have not experienced being in a competitive 8-man fight, or being in a small man or a solo situation where, like with soloers, like when you get your first 1v2 or 1v3 with small mans where you wipe an entire group with 4, right? Like there is this feeling that you get that is it's like this rush, unlike anything else. And there is that, right? There's that, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it is that feeling of success and that you accomplish something that is very cool. Casper, you play you play across the board, right? I mean, I think I see you mostly stream like mini solo, but I know you're running 8s. What's your preferred play style and why?
I like them both. I got into solo originally because I started this game very young, so it was the only people I knew were my parents and then some of the guild, but we bounced guilds, or I bounced guilds, so I didn't really know anyone. So it was parents would play with other people, so I didn't really play with anyone. So I got into solo, and then gradually became more appealing, like what Sleepy said, on the results of the fight are completely my control. Obviously, if a full group rolls me, that's unfortunate, but one-on-one, I'm gonna dictate who's gonna win. I'm gonna lose on my actions instead of my tank running in and dying on ink, kind of thing. But over the past year and a half, got into 8-man, and that's been really appealing as well. Just a very different playstyle from solo. You get that same adrenaline rush you get with 1vx's when you do 8v Zerg, or if it's a good 8v8, having everyone work together perfectly. He uses his toy, so I don't have to use mine, so I can save it later to save someone else. Been really enjoyable. There isn't that many good 8v8s on live, though. Yeah. Been very hit or miss on terms of the skill. Sometimes one side just, completely bulldozers the other, or people just 180 on ink, or you just run around and find no one for an hour, and then you'll find 8v like 16 instead of 8v8. But it's been really good.
Yeah, I agree that the action, especially in the last couple of weeks, has been tough. I'm gonna throw a match into a pile of kindling here. So there's obviously this shift in numbers, right? There's always been 3 Zergs. It's ebbed and flowed. There's always been the set 8s that run. More recently, the Hibs have lost numbers. The mid Zerg has gained numbers. 8s have become almost non-existent. There's very few of them that are out there that run on a regular basis, and most of them that do are on Hib, right? The set ones. What do you think the Zerger like me, or the Zerging community, and we'll start with Sleepy on this maybe, what do you think we could do to help prop up and support? Because like Zerging is important. I think we all understand like all of these play styles are important in their own way, but what can we do to prop up smaller numbers? What can we do to make that better?
So reflex response on that is incentivize. Incentivize through, so for example, the weekly solo quest, the weekly group quest that was just added is a very good start. I don't know that I have a really good answer to give you to that question, but I do know that the effects of shifts in numbers in the Zerg do have a trickle-down effect. And what I mean by that is, to speak to the dissolve of the 8v8 concept, a lot of guilds that used to be able to put 8 together and go out there and compete on the mainland and the island are now only logging in 3 and 4 people a night. And they have been connected for a long time. They're friends in the game or outside of the game, so they want to go out there and roll. Okay, so, but they're not bringing 8, so they can't go to the island to compete. So that 3 or 4 man is now forced to go where? Solo zones, mazes, which in turn, the effect that has is a reduction in the solo community. And you'll find that a lot of members of the solo community are now doing small mans. They're trying to form 8s because we're getting rolled so often, and we all know in the solo community that that's a fundamental component to what we do. We accept the risk of dying, but we're getting fewer and farther between. So I think incentives have always been the key. I heard talk the other day about doing away with the population bonus or the underdog bonus. Absolute disaster to do that. Continuing to offer incentives through realm point bonuses. That's what we do in Dark Age of Camelot to stimulate activity. We increase realm points.
Sure.
And then you have to drill it down specifically on the play style that you think needs the most improvement in numbers.
And that is, I mean, fundamentally that's solo with smalls and 8s. I mean, that's where the focus really needs to be, I think, right?
I think the lifeblood of Dark Age of Camelot is Zergs. Okay.
Sure.
That's what pays the bills. That's what keeps the servers going. But at the same time, it's important to focus on the fact that that's not the only thing that exists in the game. Can Hib or Mid put together a 60-man Zerg? Absolutely. It's important to keep them satisfied, but at the same time, you also have to give attention to the 20 or 30 solos. Just because they're not grouped together, that's still 30 subscriptions that you need to accommodate. And with your 8-man community, you get 5 or 6 of those, and that's 50 or 60 people you need to accommodate there. So just because you can't see everybody at the same time in the solo community and the 8 community doesn't mean that they don't have as much impact on the state of the game as the Zerg does.
I agree with that. And I want to respond to something that you said. You were mentioning population bonuses. I think that the population bonuses I think they should exist. I think there's a solid reason for them to exist. My issue, and we can all agree to disagree here, or maybe we agree, is that it disproportionately affects some of the players, the folks that log in, that say the realm pride, right? So they don't switch realms, and I'm talking about the 8s and the Zergs too, where they see that bonus and they go, I don't want to deal with that. That seems like we're just going to get outnumbered, and they don't even bother logging in. Where those folks could be, I'm not trying to put them down, but they could be food they could be RPs, right? They could be potential fights for 8s and for smalls and for solos. So I don't want to get rid of the bonuses. That's not my point on it. I think there has to be a better way of displaying them so it doesn't have that psychological impact of like, oh my God, there's too many. I can't log in tonight. I'm just going to go do something else. I don't know.
The bonuses should exist, and maybe you don't make them visible that they exist. Okay,
sure.
That seems to be. I think that's been a talked about solution before.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, from my perspective, that would solve the problem. But Casper, what about you? You know, especially from like an 8v8 right perspective, like what can we do? Is it a matter of just not running people down? Is there should we be breaking off? I think this is kind of a rhetorical question, but like what can we do as Zergs?
Just the thirst. Had an example today. We believe it was at Hib Y. We ran into the mid Zerg, and they actually chased us from Hib Y to the east dock around the island.
Wow.
Or it might have been Alb Y to west dock. I can't remember. They chased us from one of the Ys around the island, like 17 versus 8 or something. And it's just the thirst, right? And same with solo players. If you find me and you roll me 8, I think I can speak for a lot of 8 or solo players. Don't really care if you kill me, wrong place, wrong time. But when you see me in clip range and you chase me 3 zones, even if I live, it's just annoying. Now you've taken out whatever time. Maybe I miss a solo at the maze because I had to run from you. If I'm mid-fight, don't care if you kill me. Maybe I kill you after if you add 1v1, right? But like, if it's 8 and you see a 1v1, just kill the person after. Like, see who wins. Like, you really don't need those 40 realm points. And that person you could have killed, maybe he wins, he gets 5k and doesn't get upset that you killed him because he got his kill. Maybe that was his, at least on my mini I can say, maybe that was my 5th solo kill for, and it's taken me an hour and a half to get it because my pet, or just lack of action. And in watching an 8-man, come and roll me right before I get my 5th kill, kind of demotivating. Don't care if you kill me. Give me the credit for my fight first.
Yeah, because you're already an uphill battle on a pet stroll anyway, trying to get the solo kill credit to begin with, let alone actually finding the action.
Yeah, but that goes for everything too, right? Like 8v8s. If you find an 8v8, if it's like you can't control the Zerg, right? But for an example, you've said in the past, if you know set fights are going south, don't drag your BG south. Or if you're a leader who, doesn't mind letting the 8v8 finish, but you don't mind adding or something, just stay away from it until it's done, right? It's just not full respect on never adding, but just a little bit of respect, right? Like letting that solo 1v1 finish, or let that 8v8 finish before you might jam, or just stay away from south in general if you're the Zerg leader, right?
Yeah, I think they say Scott Dabbs says in chat discretion, and I think that like sums it up, right? It is about discretion. It's about respect, and there's a time and a place to add and a time and place not to add. I would like to see people step out of their comfort zone. I'd like to see the Zerg leaders say, you know what, we all know each other. We can start this thing back up again in 5 minutes if we need to, but let's all just go and just break off and do our own thing. I would love to see some groups start building, if they don't have them already, and most of us do, alts on other realms and say, we're just gonna, we're gonna go and we're gonna fight. We're gonna go log on another realm. And we're gonna try it out and give it a shot, and not like immediately log on the first death. Just stepping outside of their comfort zone is really important. I can't. It's so frustrating for me watching, like tonight and even last night, what people will do, right? Because it's not wanting to step outside of their comfort zone, not wanting to try something new, not wanting to do something a little bit different. I don't know what it is, but the response that I got even last night when we broke off from the Hibzerg was was quite negative, and I I just don't know where that comes from. But it's frustrating, and I wish we would do more 8s. I wish we would run and break that action up a little bit. Pronder asks...
The game would be...
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The game would be so much nicer, like, especially during EU Prime. Like, imagine if, Perorius goes... there's no point to go break the port, right? I know the Zerg mentality, they've got either, I just don't really care, I'm just going to stick and go. You got those people. You have the people who think hitting those empty keeps and just ruining the realm for, the few solos, 1 8-man, and maybe 1 smallie. Now they have to run from Relic Town, go catch a boat. They can't port EV. They can't port anywhere. Those people, like, you ruin it for them on the idea that it might start out, right? Like, if there's no Zerg within the first 1 or 2 keeps, or like Island Run, maybe he takes Benno, and then flames another tower. If there's no Zerg to compete, like to shut him down, just log, or just everyone like split into 8s, because then you've got mad 8 action, you've got mad solo action, smallie. You're not ruining ports. People can actually play the game.
Sure.
Just no reason to continue PvEing the empty keeps.
Yeah, even to this idea that it draws action, I don't know. We could talk about that for a long time, and we don't have all the time, because I want to get through this. I know, Sleepy, we don't have you all night, and we probably don't Casper all night, and I can't be up till 3 a.m. talking about this, but we could go on and talk about this for hours and hours. Pronder asks, do you think seeing the bonus, the population bonus on login affects sub count? I personally don't. Maybe you guys have different opinions on this. I don't think it has anything to do with sub count. In fact, I think sub count is pretty stable regardless of how you look at it. People are subbed because they maybe want to come back, or they occasionally play, or they want the veterans rewards, or whatever reason, but people don't generally unsub just because of the population ebb and flow. I think that's what has made DAoC so successful for so long. Do you guys generally agree with that, or no?
Yeah, I don't think the sub or the realm bonus really affects much besides deciding what realm you play. And I can say there's a decent amount of soloers do it sometimes in 8, but at least on solo I'll log onto the realm with the highest bonus. Why not? Highest bonus, highest action, right?
Sure.
Generally.
And what about you, Sleepy? What do you think? Do you think it's tied in at all? I mean, sub count is it's one of those things that we don't know anyway, but
I think that there is a greater number of people subscribed to the game than what we think, but I think that people that pay for the game are waiting for what they define as an optimal condition to log in. So, to Casper's point earlier, when Hero gets on and he cuts the ports, that's, I know to your point, you said we could talk about this, for hours, and we could, but in the solo channel in Discord, there's this sinking feeling when Hero's on closing ports. People don't even want to log in. They're a subscribed customer. They're not playing the game. It's too inconvenient to them. They don't want to boat all around, especially if you're playing a solo visible. Who's going to want to run the risk of traveling all over the map in inconvenient ways and just getting killed? And we can talk about this point later. I can tell you, the solo game is by far the most expensive game, or the most expensive play style in the game to play. Very expensive. Those in the Zerg and really the 8-man community, to a lesser extent, they have no idea the cost of soloing. So nobody's going to get their armor busted on. Nobody's going to wear out their supremacy potions. Nobody's going to wear out their celerity potions if all the ports are cut and they know they have no chance of getting to their objective. So sub count, yep, there's people out there. There's people that want to come back, but when they hear us talking about the current conditions of what the Zerg is doing to the game in the wrong way, they're not going to log in. They might pay their monthly subscription cost. I paid my monthly subscription cost to Dark Age for 3 and 4 months at a time without logging in, just because I wanted to contribute to keeping the lights on. But it's all about, it's about what's an attractive time to log in.
Yeah, that return on investment for soloers is far less than it is for people who are zerging and even 8-manning. It's getting the same amount of RPs, right, for the things that happen to gear, supremacy pots, traveling, right? Just time in general. There's a huge sink. It's so much easier to be a Zerger, but not as much fun. Okay, I want to get to controlled pets real quick. Casper and I've talked about this in DMs back and forth for a while now. There is some fundamental issues with pet pathing. We've talked about this on prior State of the Games, where we talked about Pathfinder, the system that Mythic back in the day used to map routes from point A to point B. We've talked about why that's, if you don't know, you should go back and watch prior State of the Games, why it's pet pathing's a problem. And now there's a maybe not a new bug, Casper, but a pretty recent bug where it causes pets to just freeze in the middle of areas. I mean, how have you managed to, like, I played solo Patrol, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times in the last month and a half. And it's super disruptive. How do you get around that?
You don't. You just go grab another one. No one's going to play a minstrel solo if they don't really enjoy the class. The RPs aren't rewarding. Fights take so long, you're going to get rolled. Very weird playstyle on constant fighting with low damage, managing your pet. And with it bugging out so much, you don't get around. You see it bugged, you go, wow, that really sucks. You release it, you go find another one and hope you don't get rolled on the way to it, and then on the way back. Yeah.
And hopefully you can get back to, if you even care about buffing your pet, that you can actually get back and forth.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
CL buffs can barely cut it. Say they do. Especially when so many classes can rip through it. V-Dub's going to rip through your pet. Solo. Valks are going to rip through your pets. Light tanks can rip through your pet. You have to buff it.
Yeah.
Especially on top of the fact that it's your main damage source, so if it's doing no damage.
Right, yeah, the fundamental issue.
It's going to be such a long fight.
Yeah.
You'll get rolled before you kill anything.
Yeah.
Unless you're just farming box questers, which try and avoid.
The question I thought was kind of interesting is if you could swap a pet to any realm, which would it be? Specifically, not talking about the classes that own the pets, just the pets. I don't know. I mean, the undergoblins for me, or the undergoblins, the goblins, the ones that snare, that have the rear snare style. Those are my favorite. What about you? Do you have a particular pet that you like to run more often than not?
Frost Stallion.
If you can get to it, yeah.
Run,
yeah.
If I can get to it, yeah. But
right.
Pretty much just, I guess I'd have to say Templar, just because the closest thing, right? But even doesn't really matter, because the Frost Stallion is going to be a long run to get it, even if it's my favorite pet. And then if Hero's on, even a Templar is going to be a super long run, right? So
yeah,
kind of just whatever pet I can.
What about you, Sleepy? Do you play pet classes at all? What's your? No.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
For
avoiding
all the reasons that Casper already mentioned.
Right, I gotcha. That makes sense.
Worth the squeeze.
Yeah. I completely understand.
Actually,
go ahead.
Another pet I really enjoyed was, I don't think it doesn't anymore, but when the Spirit Rune Master, when it used to near sight, I liked that pet. I thought that was cool for like solo. But SM doesn't need it. I thought the pet was cool.
I apparently misunderstood the question, which was swap a pet to any. We're talking about the pets that can cast, the classes that can cast pets. What? Okay, so understood. And I think Casper caught on to that more before I did, but of course I jumped immediately to pet pathing. Very quickly, I will say here that the Amber Simulacrum pet before the nerf, I would have given anything. I would have given my firstborn. No, I probably not, but I would have given up just about anything for that Amber Simulacrum pre-nerf. That thing was nuts. And maybe just I don't. I mean that the Broadsword's made so many improvements to castable pets. Nerfed them in some ways and then added utility in other ways. Pets that heal now. That was not always a thing. That's pretty cool. Although it's not really new. But Do you guys have opinions on that? I mean, if there was a pet that you wish that you could move from one realm to another, I don't know if that's something that you guys would be able to answer.
With the current state of where pets are at right now, or when the pet patch happened?
I think maybe the current state is probably where the question's going to more than anything.
I would go so far as to say that the Amber is one of the most underrated pets in the game.
It's just a lack of hit points. That's the only
Well,
issue.
it's a paper tiger,
Yeah, but the amount of damage that it does is nuts.
It's ridiculous.
That pet's pretty enjoyable. It's pretty troll.
Yeah, it's
when you run into groups who are overwhelmed, even without the pet, just overwhelmed by the other group itself. Funny watching you throw the pet in cab rank 5 dem online and casually goes and solos one of the casters in 20 seconds.
Right? Yeah, just let it go to town.
Yeah,
that's
never nuke that guy. He'll die soon.
Yeah, right. That's important. Okay, didn't get the question. Now understand. Perfect. Next question: is there any real advantage other than I want to talk about classic, and we'll talk about classic in a minute, and maybe we can tie pet pathing and all of this action into that question. But we'll get to this one. Is there any real advantage other than social to a guild being in an alliance? Are alliances even still useful? I'm Sleepy. From the solo community perspective, how important are guilds and alliances for you?
RP bonuses. I don't join a guild for the social reasons, because my socializing comes in the form of the solo channel or the participants in my stream. So I don't feel the same need to have interaction in game that I used to have with people. Quite frankly, the last 3 or 4 times that I've joined a guild was just when I was running boxes for my CLs, and I would get an invite from Blood Core's guild to help make that process go a little bit more quickly. Now, goes without saying, I've got a couple years in this game under my belt, so I have my communication outlets to people in other ways that a new player might not have. So is there still a benefit to a guild? No question. Plus, you get those cool emblems on your cloaks if you've got a guild leader that's got any good taste. So the alliance, I don't know. I haven't participated in an alliance event since probably 2005, so I couldn't tell you.
That's really interesting. Since I think maybe around that era of 2005, right? There's been this explosion almost since the beginning of DAoC, but certainly in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, there's been this explosion of like third-party chat. I mean, IRC was always a thing, but there was this explosion like of this easily accessed communities that you can just jump in and start chatting with other people that I wouldn't say replaced alliances or guilds, but probably from your perspective replaced that social interaction that you might have otherwise only had in game.
Well, there's one of the benefits of Discord, and Discord having 3 distinct channels, there's general, there's 8v8, and then there's solo. And so the third-party communication tools has simplified or has pointed me in the direction to where I can connect people that are like-minded to me, and it doesn't have to have realm loyalty in order to do that. Most solos will tell you that they'll play any class, any realm, anytime they feel like it. So you have to look beyond the realm loyalty aspect of things. But I can remember a time when I first started playing Dark Age where I was part of a guild that probably had 120 people in it. And every Sunday morning we would meet up at the guild house at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we would all sit around in the guild house, and there would be a guild leader that would take point on, these are the hard goals and objectives. I mean, there was even a sergeant in arms. It was unbelievable. It was a really cool experience, but there was no other, there might have been some privately created websites specific to your guild. And that was all well and good at the time because it allowed you to form a real intense bond with the people that you were guilded with. I don't know how practical that is in the Dark Age that we play right now. Our needs are very specific. So you have to you identify the communication resource that points you towards those that are like-minded to you.
To your point, I remember sitting around because I played Alb really from the start of the game in beta, and sitting around the the Round Table and Camelot and having big meetings there. And, it felt like at the time, it felt like you had to, now like in a modern day office where you reserve a conference room, it kind of felt like you needed to reserve that, depending on the server that you were on in order to be able to meet with people, and how times have changed.
Times have changed, and role play's gone by the wayside. To go back to what I was talking about, these guild meetings that we would have on Sundays, the guild leader would even make us take our weapons off and put them in our backpacks.
Those are the good old days.
If that's what you want to call them.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, maybe simpler times. Casper, you run with when you run 8, right? You run with a pretty set crew, I think. Do guilds and alliances mean a whole lot to you specifically, and what you're trying to accomplish in game?
Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
The only reason to be in the guild for me is the bonuses, whether I'm leveling something new, but I have everything at this point. The RP bonus, artifact bonus, if I need something for a temp and I have to level that. On Hib, I have my own guild. On Mid, I run in another soloist guild just for the bonus. I've just joined a couple of my tunes have gone into like Tom's guilds or random guilds simply just for the bonus. I use it nothing more than, and then if I have to level something new, I'll put in like my own guild so I can get some merit points and use my own emblem. Pretty much all it is for me.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. I just have one thing to say about that.
I knew I should have stuck Tom.
Sorry, I had to add that in. Yeah, I sorry. I don't know so much. For me, it's guilds in game are less important than they were before. They are still because of the fact that I've been doing this with the same folks for like 12 years, 13 years. We have other ways of meeting now, but for practical purposes, it is like it's the roof that we all house ourselves under, and it's kind of a sacred thing for us. But I don't know. I would say that things like Discord and Facebook Messenger and all those other things have replaced like active communication. But for folks that are coming back, for folks that maybe don't have that community yet, that haven't built that community, or haven't been invited to one, folks that are returning, all that stuff. And for people like Alexa, or things like Alexa, I shouldn't have said her name. It's guilds are crucial. Guilds are super important to connect with folks, and for free stuff too. I mean, if you commit to, if you're coming back to the game and you commit to playing a particular class, like for us, we're short 8s in like we can't fill a group every night on Hib anymore, and I think there's every single person in the guild would open up their vault if we knew that somebody would run with us on a regular basis. And that's like an instant into an established group. Maybe it's a Zerg, so you don't want to run with us, fine, whatever. But it's an instant in. You get gear. There's a community of folks that all know each other, that know how each other plays. So guilds, I think, still do serve a purpose, and alliances still do, but maybe not for players like Casper and Sleepy, right? Everybody's a little bit different in that regard. The next question is there any real advantage? Why do you never see a Fletcher advertising their trade? Casper, talk to me about fletching. What happened?
Who's gonna use it?
Okay.
Well, what do you even?
Good answer.
What do you even craft with it? Like instruments and bows, right? I think it's just instruments and bows.
Staffs.
Oh, is it staffs too? All right.
Yeah.
Well, everything's just so cookie cutter. You're never gonna run a leggy instrument, even if that exists. You're not gonna run a crafted one. The cursed ones exist. Cursed staff, new staff. You could potentially argue. I did this on my Mauler. You could argue a leggy staff on the Mauler if you're running solo cast Mauler. With getting the debuff right before you get a stun, you could argue that. But besides that, bows, you just use CL15. Astral's extremely good as well. Craft itself isn't that appealing much. All the classes that benefit from fletching have infinite better options. Yeah.
It's just a lack of, I mean, the game, it's everything has shifted. Crafting has shifted so much in the last, or the use of crafted items has shifted so much in the last 6 or 7 years, 10 years even, right? That it's just not. It's not as important as it used to be. There are some that are important. There's always usually at least one crafted piece in any good template. So you're going to need a spell crafter for that, presumably. You're going to need an armor crafter or whatever. But there are certain trades that have fallen out over the years, and fletching is one of them, for what it's worth. Sleepy, do you have anything to add about that, or should we move on to the next topic?
Can't say it better than you guys already have. Sad but true.
Yeah, I would love to see an overhaul of crafting. I mean, I pile on the stuff that Broadsword's already got to do at this point. I would love to see an overhaul of crafting. But with the amount of work it would take, I think we all have to be realistic. With the amount of work that it would take, there are other priorities, right, to push out the door. People, I hear this time and time again in Discord, and I get private messages and about the fact, like, why is there not a more frequent patch schedule? Why is class balance not a more regular thing? And I think the short answer is that it just takes, you have to, from a GM perspective, like, look at everything from a 5,000-foot view when you're making any small tweaks to the game and any changes to the game. You have to think about how it affects every single play style and every single group matchup and composition that might exist out there. And then you throw in things like trying to rework crafting when you've got all of these items that exist right now that over the course of the last decade have been built to try and, or have been created to try and build these templates and to try and get things to fit together. It's a huge amount of work. And while I'd love to see it happen, I don't think that's an anytime soon thing. Maybe on that note, we'll pivot to Classic Server. Does that sound like a plan? Do we want to talk a little bit about that? Because that's always a hot topic.
Sure.
So we've speculated constantly on this stream and on the State of the Games about what Classic Server might look like. Sleepy, you've certainly played Classic back in the day when it was on live, right? Because that was you've played, yeah. So tell me, like, what is appealing from a solo perspective to bringing back Classic, and what does that mean, you think, for you out there on a daily basis?
With the state of where DAoC is at right now and the quality of life features that have been added into the game over the years, I don't know if I could go back to a Classic environment right now and do away with that. At the same time, even though I could make the argument that the state of solo play is the worst that it's been in DAoC's history, I could at the same time tell you that a good 1 versus 1 fight is the best it's been in DAoC's history. I don't know if that answer even makes sense, but the quality of fights are tremendous when you do actually find a good 1v1. I've had fights that have lasted I fought Vic and Tessa on my Mauler against his Friar. We fought for 18 minutes 3 weeks ago. Wow. 18 minutes. Okay. It's actually available on his Twitch page. I don't know if I could revert back to the Classic environment with god awful cast times, or casting speeds rather. God awful swing speeds.
Yeah.
I know it's a more simplified version of the game. I know that there's a lot of purists out there that see the value in that. They think that in some way that less gear means more reliance upon skill. But those are the same type of people that would tout skill and then look to the way that today's game is played and accuse skilled players of hacking, strafe hacking.
Yeah.
That one all the time.
Yeah.
So, and because I've tried to, and Casper can speak to this probably better than I can, because so many of us have adapted to, and Broadsword has encouraged mouse movement, back side to side strafe movement. We've adapted to play that way. I don't know if I could go back to that classic stick and click, rely on, the ROG guides to hopefully give you a crit this time or hopefully give you an evade. I don't like that. I would rather be in a little bit more control of my own destiny. I'll go on record as saying I love the fact that you can get a 50 in this game in about 4 to 6 hours. I love it.
Yeah.
So if classic means, and hey, listen, there are gluttons out there, people that are gluttons for punishment out there that think that in some way that their MMO experience is enhanced by slow leveling progression. More power to you. I'm not one of them. When I started playing Dark Age when I was 22 years old and I had all the time in the world, that was fine. But now that I have 2 to 3 hours a night, if I'm lucky, I'm not gonna grind like that. So I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded in my response.
No,
I had a lot of preloaded responses that and now it's just kind of I'm getting analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Am I advocating for classic server in spite of all these criticisms that I just threw out? Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of what it could bring to the game. If it brings in hundreds, if it brings in 1,000 people that can supply the game with financial resources to knock off the dust,
Yeah.
and if it in some way has a positive effect on Yaowain, great, I'm all for it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that there's going to be a big jump from Yaowain over to Classic. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that if people have stuck it out this long on Yaowain, they're probably going to do it. And then there might be some crossover appeal from Classic over to Yaowain, and then probably vice versa. I'm a supporter of Classic, but more than likely I won't be a participant. Yeah. And I'll shut up there.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think that there's an open question about QOL and what that looks like on a Classic server. We've seen other, that shall not be named, other implementations of quote-unquote Classic, right, that have, for lack of a better word, had to adapt. And it's no longer, the servers that tried the grind did not do so well, because grind is just, it's just not something that people want, generally speaking. Casper, what about you? I don't know about your experiences with Classic. You know, sort of the stream and how we skirt around talking about free shards, but curious to know if that is of any interest to you and what specifically would draw you to something like that.
Just population. I've got no interest in playing solo Classic server. It's almost to the point where it's just brainless, minus 2-3 classes, right? And that depends on like how they balance it, but it's pretty brainless.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Pretty brainless for solo. Going from hunting for side styles, knowing what procs to look for, knowing what like new abilities to look for, MLs and everything, pre-popping your items just in case they pop something, right? Going from that to stick and click, AFK, whoever got better RNG won the fight, or whoever's class was better won the fight. Pretty boring, pretty stale. In terms of group and 8, I think it's somewhat the same. It's a lot more enjoyable than solo, because it still have to work together and there's still some appeal to it, but there's a lot less things you have to look out for, but it's roughly the same, just at a very basic level, so that's still appealing if there's the population. But for solo, it's completely out the window. Not even a question. Not worth playing it.
Is that true for Sins too? On like a.
Oh, yeah. I had someone. Someone was watching me play my Shadowblade, and I was sitting there going for side styles, spamming side styles, getting out of their like 180 cone of like field of view to attack, to avoid myself getting hit, getting side styles. Someone who played the other server, the other Classic server, they called me bad and were like down talking me because I wasn't sitting there playing like the original Sins, who sat there and hoped they got an evade so they win the fight.
Right.
Play like a man.
Yeah, play like a man. AFK, and if RNG doesn't treat you Yeah, if RNG didn't treat you well, damn, good fight. Looks like you got to get better, I guess. Getting down talked because I didn't rely on RNG.
So I think the hope, right? And
The hope
Broadsword,
is a TOA server.
the hope is a TOA server. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Broadsword has been watching where other folks have come before and have failed in some places, and maybe we call it a success in others, although that's debatable. But they've watched, and so my hope is that, in addition to my belief that Classic is more than just a Classic rule set, that it actually means a whole new back end, which increases the life expectancy of DAoC for many years to come. Maybe they've focused on some of these QOL improvements, and they're going to keep some of that stuff. You know, maybe they're cherry picking the best. Nobody knows except for what's, I was going to say inside the four walls of that building in Virginia, but I assume everybody's remote because of COVID. Nobody knows yet. So it's just a wait and see. But I agree with you. Like, from my perspective, I'm not super excited about playing Classic. I would like, somebody mentioned in chat, and I scrolling up to find it. I apologize if I'm not mentioning you by name. But it was the idea of starting a fresh 50 over again, like starting at a brand new server. Like, that to me is exciting. The idea of starting over from square one, where everybody's starting over from square one. I don't know why. That just to me sounds fun. But I would need to see, before I jumped on board, what the quality of life improvements look like, or what they've capped, before deciding to just, leave the current server and go. There is
What UCP said. Sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to say, I think there's also a, the idea of there being alternative rule set servers really interests me. Depending on the success of what this Classic server looks like, Broadsword's committed to doing other variations, and I don't know what that looks like, but I'm interested to find out. What were you, Casper?
Yeah. Casper, go ahead. I apologize.
Basically, just agreeing with what UCP said. I'd play anything TOA post. Even what people call the Kuji patch with the Necro rework and the Assassin reworks and everything.
Yeah.
I love those changes, to be honest. I think the numbers are tuned a little poorly. I think Necros were ridiculous. They got a little too much and they got too much damage, but the whole form changing idea for Necros becoming the pet, I love that. I think that's a really cool new, I guess, mechanic. We don't really have that on any other class. We had that with like light tank for a bit, but a lot of the broadsword changes people don't like are really cool, and I think they were just poorly tuned, right? Because it's still TOA, it's still new stuff, and it's fast paced. They just need to. They could do all the same changes and just rework the numbers.
Knockmeal will reset in 5 minutes.
Sorry, Casper.
Teddy, I think your Alexa got into your Pinot Noir.
Yeah. Well, she constantly.
Did you spill the box on it or something?
Somehow she's talking about Knockmeal all night long, and I don't know how to shut her up. Sorry, Casper. I apologize.
Sorry. What Bamalama said in chat on the no one likes the TOA grind. I think what they could do for a TOA server, I think he's completely right. No one wants to, especially the people who are going to play all three realms, or that person in group who's able to play in multiple groups, or they'll play whatever someone needs for the night, so they have 3 or 4 characters. Going, not only restarting 1 to 50, but going back and doing, 1.1, 1.2 for all the ML steps, very tedious. I think what they could do is just do the final one of each, so it's 10 different steps, and then after that, you could do like what you have now. You can buy it with BPs. Once you've done it once, make it just the final step of each chapter, I guess. You go do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. on the first tune, and then you can buy with BPs after. I don't think you need to have every little step in there, just the final one. So, killing ML10, killing the Phoenix, because those were a lot of TOA content's cool. It's just overwhelming. There's just so much for it to be a requirement. For it to be optional and have like skins or something from all those small steps, sure, but it being a requirement just to play, a bit overwhelming, especially if you're that person who plays. 3-4 tunes or plays 2 to 3 on every realm.
Yeah, which was the problem, at least in my opinion, with some of the more recent. Not that, you know, I thought the quest line was great, but with Broadsword, with the curse stuff and the Otherworld stuff, by the third curse tune, I did all my Otherworld across all 3 realms, and by like the third curse tune, I was ready to yeet myself off of a very large structure. Sleepy, you were going to say something a minute ago about TOA. Do you want to jump in?
I want to say the same thing about TOA as I would about anything that has been implemented over the course of the past 10 years. The success of it is going to be reliant upon the feedback from the community and engaging them for their feedback and what they want to see happen while things are in development stages. Okay, very often, you know, the patch cycles that we've seen over the course of the last 7 to 10 years has been, okay, this is what we've prepared for you. We haven't taken your input on this, but this is what we think you would like. And so we're going to roll this out. And then very often it's such a far deviation from what we had in mind that the only reaction that we get, the only vehicle for change that we get is their reaction to our anger about something. And it shouldn't get to that point. It should be engagement along the way before things are even created. You know, hey, we were thinking about doing this. Well, wait a minute. That's, you know, the survey. Do you remember way back in the day, we would have the surveys that would pop up on the screen as soon as you logged in. Let's get that re-implemented. Let's have a more engaging, let's do surveys. Let's have more engagement with the development so we can pick and choose a la carte. And I'm not telling them how to do their job. I'm saying if I was to choose a top 10 of what I'd like to see rolled out in the game, what I'd like to see rolled out in Classic, what I'd like to see rolled out in TOA, let's come together as a community and let's decide on that. Let's be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid point. There are surveys, you know, and people post surveys on the Herald and stuff that you know, occasionally, and grab bags and other posts that I think do influence. But I love the idea, and maybe this is like, you know, right idea, wrong time because of everything that's underway. And I think Classic has been, I think Broadsword's been working on Classic for quite some time now, like years. But the kind of community engagement that you're talking about, I think has to exist post Classic launch for it to be successful. There is a, from, and this is not a knock on any particular person at Broadsword. I want to make that like abundantly clear. But just from a 5,000 foot view, I think that the communication has to increase once Classic is built, because Classic right now, I understand, is a huge workload. Knock Meal's resetting for anybody that's curious. Classic's a huge workload. But once that launches, I think they have to get back into regular patches, responding to stuff like immediately. The even like just getting John on any, you could do it here, you could go to Sleepy, you could go to Casper, you could go like, I don't, it doesn't really matter, but getting John live somewhere where like there could be questions and there could be interaction with the community, I think would be an enormous help. And I understand why, like in fairness, I understand why that might not be happening right now, but I think for it to go as well as it could post Classic launch, I think that has to be a thing. I'm with you. Like communication, for sure. And the in-game surveys are great. Team leads should be a thing. All of that stuff where people are gathering information and representing. You know, I'm with you. Okay. So I just very briefly just want to go through chat real quick because there's a lot. There's been a lot of back and forth. Folks talking about curse raids. And how now getting into curse raids are a real problem. I think that's true of any quest line that you roll out. TOA would be a perfect example of this. Once a server launches and the majority of the players go through it, there has to be a support system set up for folks to be able to shepherd them through when the majority of the server has already, you know, like Cursed is a few years old or a couple years old. But now the population has already gone through Cursed. How do you keep those raids going, right? How do you get people to go through them? I think is a challenge. I think that's a challenge for TOA too. I don't know. Casper, what do you think about that? Do you
TOA had the cop out of buying it with BPs. Essentially the same thing with curse raids, where you can now just craft all the gear. But some people want to do it for CLX. They don't want to go out and bother doing boxes and getting rolled. I don't know why you not necessarily solo it, but if you remember the dungeons that used to exist, you would go to like DC on the PvE side, go talk to an NPC, and go run into the tree to the east. It would port you into like a one-man, or I think you could group it. You just go and clear the zone.
Yep.
I don't know why that doesn't exist for CLs. I think Box Quest should give a lot more CL XP, followed by the Cursed Raid giving the next like biggest amount. And then I think the solo one, it shouldn't be terrible, but it should take longer than the others, but since it's soloable, people would probably not mind getting set up. You don't really need Curse Raid necessarily, right? Everything's craftable. If you need the BPs, you can go, a day of Zerging gets you 1 or 2 items, and there's so many people in the game with multiple cap BP tunes and can ask around. There's a lot of people with spare everything, so it's not super hard to like gear up, but
Right. Yeah, I get that. I don't know why I love those instance dungeons too. They were, same thing for Catacombs. We could talk about that for a while too. I would love to get access back to Catacombs, but
sorry. Also, what
yeah,
Saki said in the chat, Cursed is disgustingly nerfed. I think I ran it with him near the end of when people were still running it. He would run 2 tunes, I would run 2 tunes, and then 4 other people. Like, it's not that hard to do Cursed. Even just you and a couple friends, if you manage to get a full group of 8 people paying attention, and it's all 8 of you trying to do it, it becomes much easier. And as you just said, you could probably / region spam, get it. That's where alliances also come in. You could ask your alliance, go to the Discord. There's so many people who fall into that category of, Herorius is on, I want to play, but he's, can't go RVR, but they want to play, and then they're like, oh, this guy needs help. I may as well. Right? There's so many people like that. People don't go to the Discord and that off, at least.
Yeah. Sleepy, real quick before we go, because I'd like to get your perspectives on or get your advice for people who are learning to solo duo. That was one of the questions, but do you have things that you want to see changed? Casper mentioned box quests, CLXP, instance dungeons, things like that. Just, even on Uane right now, just to improve the quality of life.
If you don't think that Yahweh has enough quality of life right now, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Fair point. That's a fair point.
I'm not trying to be a contrarian to anything that Casper said, because I agree with him 99% of the time that he communicates. But I think you could make the argument that there are purists out there that think that things are given away in this game too easily, and they would like to see you have to work a little bit harder to get it. So I think Broadsword did exactly what they had to do when they implemented the BP crafting. They knew that, okay, we've got these hugely popular cursed raids, and they're all well and good, but on the back end of things, they're pulling 50 and 60 people out of New Frontiers. So we've got to put a tourniquet on this thing. So they implement the BP crafting system, but unfortunately, they wanted to infuse a population boost into New Frontiers, but they threw out the baby with the bathwater, right? They made their PvE content obsolete.
Sure.
So they did the next best thing. They did what they could. They simplified the raid content, so much so to the point where it could be done, to Casper's point, with 8 people. And I think that's a good place for it to be. I've never been interested in PvE, but that's just that's subjective to everybody. I know that there are people out there that love doing it. I have a background in EverQuest, okay, where a raid would take 8 hours.
Oh yeah.
4 hours of that, getting all the knuckleheads in your guild to form up. So I know what it's like to sit there for 4 hours and wait. So I had my PvE fix done years ago, and that's the reason why I migrated from EverQuest over to Dark Age to begin with.
Yeah, I feel there's a part of me that feels some pain because there's so much beautiful PvE content. I mean, classic zones, dungeons, instances, like you name it. But I'm the same way. Like PvE content doesn't strike me in any particular way. But it makes me sad that there's so much of it. Like 99% of this game is not accessed on a regular basis. And it just makes me nostalgic and miss the days, of like circa 2001, 2002, end of 2001, 2002, just like running through Adherbard's Retreat, or you name any place in the game, and running across like 50 people, all trying to explore in the same zone. Anyway, it could be super nostalgic, but I'm with you. Like I don't want a PvE,
and I'm with you
at all. Right. Okay, so let's move on to one of the last topics. We'll get to chat topics and wrap this up. But the last question that was submitted tonight was: Do tonight's quests have tonight's guests rather have any advice for people interested in learning to solo and duo? Sleepy, I'll start with you. Is there like a top 5? I don't know. You said you had some canned responses ready for stuff like this. What's your advice?
What's my advice for somebody who's looking to get into the solo and duo aspect of the game?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. The first thing that you have to identify is the class that you'll love to play the most. And you have to make sure that class is viable in a solo capacity. And then you have to do some soul searching to make a determination if you're the type of person that is thick-skinned enough to get rolled on a regular basis, and can you endure some humiliation for the payoff in the end. If you're the type of person that is going to get dejected every time that you get killed, if you're the type of person that thinks that you're going to hit 50 and you're going to hit the solo areas in King's Gear, and you're going to be competitive against people with high rank that have been soloing for 10 or 15 years, and if you're going to give up on solo the first time that you lose to that person, then solo is not for you. Solo is about baby steps, and it's about small victories. It's about, okay, this guy flawlessed me last time we fought, but I dusted myself off. I went out there again, and this time the fight was a lot more competitive. I made him use this ability. I made him use first aid. I made him reset the fight. I made him use IP or burn purge. You have to take the victory in incremental steps. It doesn't mean that you're a bad player if you go out there and you eat humble pie for a while. You have to be patient in your journey. You have to be familiar with your class. One of the great things about Dark Age of Camelot right now is that you've got a max level tune in 4 to 6 hours. One of the worst things about Dark Age of Camelot is that you've got a level 50 tune in 4 to 6 hours. Because you don't have a background. You're not in tune with the abilities enough. I mean, truth be told, in order for somebody to be effective at playing a class, unless you're Casper, who's just genetically gifted to be able to be successful in any class that he plays, you probably have to put 200 hours into a class in order to be successful at it and to develop the muscle memory. So you've got to put in the practice. You got to be prepared to go out there and hit the dummies in the relic towns. You've got to be prepared to ask for advice. You've got to be able to identify abilities that your competitors have. And you do that in the form of watching streams. There's a lot of solo streamers out there that stream, at least I do, for the purpose of trying to educate people on the solo aspect of the game, to draw attention to solo. Maybe somebody watches my stream and they see me screw up and they go, oh, well, wait a minute. If he would have done this in that situation, he might have won that fight. And then just learning through repetition, going out there and having 100 fights, having 200 fights, and just realizing you're going to get better every time. You're going to have a bad day, from time to time. We all have that happen, but it's being patient, and then asking yourself, what's my end goal with solo? And if you're not working towards that end goal incrementally each time you play, if you're not making progress, then maybe it's time to come to the realization that solo is not for you. But if you like, you know, if you like saying to yourself, okay, I improved this time. This guy used to tear me up, but now I can go back and forth with him or her. Sorry. Then I think you'd find that there's no more rewarding of a play style in the game than solo.
That's awesome. I think the point is to not give up. I think you've mentioned that, but like
not give up, and realizing that just because you lost this fight and just because you lost this fight badly doesn't mean that you're not cut out for solo. Doesn't mean that you're a bad player. Just means that start drilling down on why you lost that fight. Replay that fight in your head. If you draw a clip on the fight, clip it, review it, watch it a couple times. Hey, did I lose this fight because I forgot to do this when I should have?
Sure.
Can this guy move better than I can? Reach out to the people that you fought that you think are talented at soloing and say, hey, can you give me a couple pointers on how to do this? Anybody that's a true solo player, Casper, Vicomtessa, Volcom, the list goes on and on of people that solo. If you were to catch them in Relic Town or send them a PM on Discord and say, hey, you know what? I can never land side stuns. How do you do that? Myself included in that list of names that I just mentioned, we'd like nothing more than to take 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, pull you aside and say, hey, meet me in Relic, and let's go over the arc of where side stun will land. You know, let's go over this, let's go over that. Let's go over these Q binds, let's go over these hotkeys, let's go over these Q bars. Let's, you know, we want to expand the community. And more importantly, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like if you lose a fight and it gets broadcasted in region that so-and-so just killed you, don't feel a need to bury your head in the sand and crawl underneath a rock, pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Persistence pays off, and eventually you'll get some name recognition in the solo community, and the game will change for you. And somebody might say, hey, listen, I see potential in you. Let me pull you aside. Let me just tell you, when we fought, this is what you could have done better. This is what you did good, but this is what you did bad. And be open to criticism. Not trolling, not hostility,
Right.
Constructive criticism. Be open to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. The idea of dusting yourself off after any fight is so important, because the only way that you get better is by losing and dying, right? And falling flat on your face. That is the only way any of us get better at anything that we do in life, I think, for the most part. Because college, if you went to college is kind of like falling on your face, because you end up in tons of debt and, you know. Okay, sorry, off on a tangent. Anyway, Casper, what about you? What do you think are like the top pieces of advice, the biggest advice you could give to folks that want to join the solo community?
Learn to be a good loser, like Frap said earlier in the chat. If you don't do that, you're gonna have a terrible. Be able to get rolled consistently by full groups, whether it's wrong time, wrong place, or they chase you. It's annoying. Be able to handle that. Make sure you're playing a class you really enjoy as well, because if you're playing something that's, even if it's right, as long as you enjoy it, there's a higher outcome you getting better at it, sticking with it, than if not. Learn to personalize your temps. I think that's a huge one. Getting everything you want from it, from whether it's certain skills or certain melee skills or capped stats, personalizing your temps a lot, and then just watching YouTube. There's so many videos of solo, almost every class. Lithlet, as an example, has put so many out there. If you're someone new and you find a class you like, go find a video of that person or of that class being played and try and mimic what you see, especially if you're new. Just essentially copy and mimic everything they're doing. Try and get success with that. And the better you get at the class, the more comfortable you are with your buttons, your CC cycling, how much damage certain things do, what's going to beat you, what you're going to beat. Then you can start implementing your own kind of play style into it.
I think to expand on what Casper said, which was perfect, identify a class and reach out for feedback in the Discord community, but identify a class that matches the level of talent or the level of skill that you have in DAoC at the time. Casper's an advanced player, can play a mini very well. Not everybody can do that, even after years. Not everybody can be a good assassin, as the meta for assassins has changed to them being forced to reset constantly to get their opponent to blow cooldowns before they can go in and burn them down. That's an advanced style of gameplay. A simplified style of gameplay, try light tanks. Okay. To Casper's point, there's a name I can recommend. There's a whole series of videos out there on YouTube that illustrate what somebody can do with a light tank if you just want to charge in there and dump all your abilities. You have to align yourself with the class that matches your skill set at the time, and then once you learn a little bit of mastery on one class, maybe try a class that's outside of your comfort zone and expand out to this. Master the light tank. Then when you say to yourself, okay, hey, I can land these side stuns now. I want to try assassin. Try the assassin. And then when you get to the top levels of performance, that's when you try the mini, like Casper does, better than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's watched the 1v1, I was extraordinarily impressed with Casper on Petrol. Very impressed. So Casper just sent me a link. I will drop it in. I'll drop it in chat if that works. But there is a class overview series on YouTube that is super helpful. Their YouTube videos are. If you can't catch a stream, you can always go to the Twitch channel and watch the replay. You can go on YouTube. There's a ton of awesome content, and you can learn a lot from just paying attention to stuff and maybe not watching the particular aforementioned YouTuber or not mentioned YouTuber that dumps everything all at once, but it's still good entertainment, right?
Did you get the reference?
Yeah, and I think all of chat
I didn't
did
want to
too.
name drop because I didn't want to have a retraction done on that. Retractions have been done before on those videos, so I didn't want to mention any names.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. In fact, there have been
you get the
copyright
inference.
strikes. Yeah, I know. Yep, no, you're good. You're all set. I think everybody in chat definitely got it. Well done. It was very smooth too. I'm sorry, I'm just going on a tangent. It was very smooth too. I have to credit you on the delivery. That was great. Okay. Anyway,
I've been practicing that one for a few days now.
Okay, so we've had some really interesting chat comments. One was already answered, but I think it's worth posing as we start to wrap this thing up. Where Sticky asked is buff bots are required for soloers. I think this is an easily answered question, but coming from you guys, can you survive on NPC buffs, or do you need a buff bot or a supremacy bot in order to be able to compete as 1v1?
I could lie to you and tell you that you can survive on the realm enhancement, but that wouldn't be doing anybody any justice. What I would tell you is the same thing that I tell every soloer. Bite the bullet, take 4 hours and 10 plat, and level an alchemist up to the point where you can craft supremacy potions and celerity potions. Do yourself a favor and do that. Soloing is the most expensive playstyle in the game. It's the most expensive templates, and the potions will kill you. You take a Zerger, for example, and believe me when I say Zerger, I don't say that in a demeaning way at all, because as I said earlier in the stream, they are the lifeblood of the game, and I've got nothing but love and respect for them. That being said, you can hit 50, grab your King's gear, and go out with realm enhancements and start collecting as a Zerger very easily. A soloer, an 8-man player cannot do that. Top tier templates, constantly in supremacy potions, constantly in celerity potions, comprehension pots, tenacity pots. You've got to have resources to accommodate the playstyle. The one bone that Broadsword did throw the solo player in the Bow Towns, as they call them, is that there's essences everywhere.
Yeah.
So Listen, I can tell you from experience, I've learned the hard way on a slow night. When I look at my bag at the end of the night, I can tell by the amount of essences that I've collected how good my night in DAoC has been. If I've got 75 to 80 essences in there, then solo stunk that night. If I've got 7 to 10 essences, then solo was good. Anyway, you're in those areas, pick the essences, level an alchemist, do yourself a favor, save some money. There's no greater way to make money in the game than through alchemy as well.
That's so
You
true.
can make potions. They're in very high demand. They sell for the bargain price on mid at 10 plat for supremacy potions. I sell them over on HIB for 5, just because the economy between the realms is really crazy right now. 10 plat for 30. When you're a soloer and you die 5 to 10 times a night, that adds up quick. You'll go bankrupt in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's true. And it's crazy the variations in cost between all 3 realms of supremacy pots if you're not making them yourself. Right, your point. It's expensive, which is why I would encourage people to try and get double pen temps. Try and increase the amount of gold that you get dropped at any given time. Just like there's all sorts of ways that you maximize the return on the investment, the ROI, with that initial temp. If you go big and you get like a double pen temp, if that is even worthwhile for your class, and it may not be, it may not fit, but if it is, you'll earn that much more gold, and therefore you hopefully will be paying off those sub pots a little bit faster. Casper, can you just, as we're wrapping things up, I'm curious, something that's stuck in my mind for a while. There was a recent change to supremacy pots that prevented them from hitting cap. You now need a plus to stat buff item in order to be able to cap supremacy pots. Do you think that's negatively or positively affected the game?
Negatively, I think it was necessary. Annoying, and it's not also, you don't get cap anymore. Sub pots previously gave you 93 int, and now with buff bonus capped you get 82, so you're still losing int even if you put the effort in to go get buff bonus. Without it, it's extremely bad. You lose like 30 int, I think, and then with it you still lose 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Annoying change. It wasn't really that good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I don't know why. People accuse me of so-called brown nosing a broadsword, and there are moments where I'm critical. I like the work that they've done, but that particular change really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't fully understand that. Maybe there was a reason, and I'd love to hear it. I'd love to know, but that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me walking away from whatever that patch was 6 months ago or so. Was just curious. Has that affected you at all, Sleepy? The change in supremacy pots and whether they cap or not?
Not in the least.
Okay. Is that presumably because, well, I mean, it affects armor factor and int, right? I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Armor factor you always had buff bonus for,
Right.
even before the QD change.
And it hasn't. Just out of curiosity, like genuine curiosity, why has that not affected you versus others? I get the int, but the armor factor.
It hasn't. Well, the armor factor hasn't affected me because if I'm a little bit softer, so is my intended target.
Right.
So it's all relative.
Which is something that we could expand upon. I think we need to do a podcast just on soloing and the idea of picking targets and working on targets that make sense. Because there's a lot of that decision-making process that goes into it. People, I think there's a large chunk of the community that think you just like run face first into something without thinking about what you're hitting. So much thought into actually what you're going to hit and what weapon you're going to use.
Well, it's easy for us to do that though because we all use hacking programs and we all side strafe hack, so it's easy. We can choose anything and kill it. It's very simple.
Yeah.
You see, guys, they are fucking cheaters. They are motherfucker. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Sorry.
What
What did I do? I broke it. There we go. I broke it by hitting that. I had to play that. Sorry. Yeah. Everybody screams hacks all day long. I hear this constantly. I have been one of those people. In complete transparency, like before I knew what I was seeing, I oftentimes defaulted to, wow, that person must be doing something that they shouldn't. But after streaming and spending so much time sort of, I guess, embedded in this community in different places for the last 8 months, what I've realized is that that really doesn't happen. And for those people who are constantly yelling like, oh, cheat, hack, whatever, it is the amount of people that actually cheat is completely insignificant to the game, even if they are. And if they are, we're talking about people that are not exploiting, but are RP farming or doing something that only really benefits themselves. There are so few people that the likelihood of you running into somebody that actively exploits or cheats or radars or whatever, it does. I can definitively tell you that it does not affect the end result of your play in the game. Just, I'm not saying that to both of you. Like, I'm just saying that to the community in general who constantly are screaming like that. That's just, it's a fact, not debatable. Have a nice day. I just wanted to put that out there. Okay. I don't know. I think we're gonna wrap that up. Do you guys have any? I want to talk about your streams, but do you have anything else that you want to add? Maybe we'll start with you, Sleepy. Is there anything that you want to bring into this?
When you see a 1v1, and if you're in a group, or if you're in a Zerg, let us finish our fight. We'll donate to you when our fight is done. The winner will gladly donate. Let us finish our fight. Nothing worse than a 10, 12, 15-minute 1v1 where that's going to get you your 5 and complete the solo road. And then a group comes by and rolls you. And then they divide out your 70 RPs for each of them. It's deflating. I know there's a portion of the community that gets the rocks off on rolling solos because they think that they're elitists. They think that they're hackers. Couldn't be further from the truth in my experience with the solo community. That's my rant. But to end that, encourage your friends to give Dark Age a shot again. Encourage them. You're not benefiting the game. You're not benefiting the community by trashing Dark Age to your friends and trashing Dark Age in Discord. If you want to see the game survive and flourish, encourage people to take a chance on the game, and then more importantly, offer yourself up as a resource to them to get them on their feet and get them going. Side note, I don't know if it's been done in the streams before or not, but I want to personally thank our host tonight for all that he does for the health of the game. I know that there's a lot of resources that go out there, both from a time standpoint, a financial standpoint. I want to thank you personally, Ramek, for all that you've done. You've sort of breathed some life into the game. You encouraged and inspired me to get into streaming. And not only that, but I think that there has been quite a number of people that have revisited the game that have said to themselves, I came back because of his stream. I know I've had a couple myself that have popped in from time to time and they've said, man, this game's still going? I love this game. I want to start playing again. And if they're doing it in my stream with 12 to 15 people, they're certainly doing it in your stream with 75 to 100 on a personal level. Thank you for what you've done for the game. And I'll close on that for the night.
Wow, that is actually that's really that's really touching. Thank you. But I will give the thanks to the community at the end. But I desperately want to see more. I want to see more representation on Twitch. I want to see more Sleepy streams. Right? Like I love the idea of completely flooding Twitch. I don't care if 1 person or 100 people are watching me. That's not why I got into this. I want to see representation across the board from all different play styles, from multiple angles inside the Zerg, soloers, smallies, 8s.
And there's a way to make that happen. And I can tell you from my experience in having played other games, which I won't mention, and I'm not talking about the server that we don't mention, I'm talking about other games in general. Incentivize your streamers. Incentivize them a little bit. Streamers want viewers. There are many games out there that have adopted the model of, okay, here's your Twitch key, pair your game account with your Twitch account, watch X streamer for X number of moments, X number of hours, and then get Twitch drops that translate to things in game. 10% XP potions, 25% XP potions, 5 plat, cosmetic items, whatever the case may be. Streamers are your best form of free advertisement. They are your only form of commercial representation. You're not going to see a Dark Age of Camelot commercial on TV or on social media. You're not going to see it in PC Gamer magazine. Quite frankly, you need to get the word out there any way you can. And if people, I know on a personal level, I've shelled out money. I upgraded my computer. I got a camera. I've shelled out money out of my own pocket because I wanted to stream. I don't make any money streaming. I've got no ROI, but I get the intrinsic value of people stopping by, asking questions, and doing what I can for the game. Bottom line, incentivize your streamers. Simple ways that you can do that. That's up to Broadsword to figure out. They might make the argument, well, you can get money through donations thanks to our intellectual property. Let me tell you something. I can show you my Twitch rewards, or I can show you my Twitch account. I'm not making any money on Dark Age. Think of a way to incentivize your streamers, and then think of a way to incentivize your player base to watch streams. I don't need to tell you this, Teddy. 75% of the people that watch streams are people that aren't actively subscribed at the moment. At least that's what my analytics show me. They're people that are randomly stopping by. Mm-hmm. That's a huge market portion of the market that's not being capitalized on. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. My hope is that with the new server, with the speculated server architecture upgrade that they're doing, my hope of what they're doing is that Broadsword will pivot to. I think there's a technical reason why they haven't up until this point. I would very much love to see, in complete agreement with you, them doing what all these other games, the larger games, are doing, right? Which is giving back to streamers, incentivizing streamers to stream, giving back to people that watch. Completely agree with you. And I will also say because I want to talk to Casper about this too. I get inundated with messages. People DM me and they wonder why I don't respond. I'm not kidding. Like usually like 15, 20, 30 a day from different people. And there's a chunk of those folks that have played before that are coming back that want to know how they can get in on it by watching, whether it's my stream or somebody else's stream. And the more we do this, right, the more Casper streams and Sleepy streams and I stream and Borgio, and I'm not going to like go through but like literally like the folks that stream, the more streamers that we have, Vicum and everybody, the better the game will be. And that's what I have to say about that. Casper, what about you? Give me your 10 cents on that.
On getting people back in?
Yeah, or just like streaming in general. Like, I mean, you've had some really awesome streams. Like, what is that? Has that taught you anything about returning players or how to get people back in? Learning from watching your own content.
For returning players, it kind of just showed me how little people know of the game, I guess, or like knowing that there's a Discord, or that certain things had been updated. A lot of people haven't played the game in 5-10 years or so. But surprising how little people I've talked to that have mentioned coming back and not having people to play with, or like post counts down kind of thing. And surprising how little people know of the Discord kind of thing. Just, I guess, just more advertisement, especially on community made things, whether it's on Discord or in game. They have how when a server gets updated, it gives you like a little box to click off saying the server will shut down and whatever, or this event's up now.
Sure.
Kind of just doing that with like the Discord or like outlets for the game. I think they could do that.
It's a great idea.
I guess just getting the word out about everything. They're very quiet, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, I using any channel that you can, right? Any vehicle you can to get the word out. And the more events that we've covered, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We've covered events every single week, I feel like, on the state of the game since we started. But the dynamic events, more events. things that are different every week or every couple of weeks. Dev run stuff, right? Like that's what I'm at this point. That's what I live for. That's what I'm hoping and living for. And that's a bit dramatic, but like that's what I hope to see come out of these new changes. But I could talk about that for a long time, and we won't. Okay, so I want to thank my co-hosts for tonight and the folks that have amazing outlets of their own, amazing streams. I want to start with Sleepy, twitch.tv/SleepyTunes, streaming solo play. The stream, man, has just over the course of time, right? I genuinely can say it's better and better and better and better. And when you started talking on stream, I think I mentioned it on this stream, I was like, man, like he's like interacting, like this is so cool. Now you got like the camera and all that stuff. Your content is awesome. Tell us all about what you're up to on Twitch.
So to your point, the stream is just kind of ever evolving. It started, I was, very trepidatious about streaming in general because I lack confidence in my abilities. But then I came to the realization through the reinforcement of a couple friends that it's not about always watching somebody go out there and kick butt. Nobody's expecting you to go out there and win every fight. It's about what you're, tremendous at, viewer engagement. I streamed last night for 2.5 hours, and it was a slow night. So I probably had 4 or 5 fights the entire night. At the end of the night, I was almost humiliated at the lack of content that I had provided to the people that watched the stream. And instead, I wound up getting a lot of great reviews from people because during the course of that time, we were having such an active back and forth dialogue, talking with people. And I have a tendency to be very transparent in my stream. So if I sense that the content in the game at the time is slipping and I'm not going to be able to deliver the visuals to people in that way, then we just start talking about a wide variety of topics. So I would classify my stream as more of like it's more of like a sort of a combination of a sitcom and a radio broadcast, and a little bit of Dark Age splashed in there.
Yeah.
So upcoming for me, much of the same, with the hopes of convincing, incentivizing, tantalizing new players to dip their toe in the pool and try this game that we love and want to see come back strong.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and the gameplay itself. If you're just like the commentary is fantastic, but if you're just there for the gameplay, like watching those fights is like it's just awesome. So I would highly encourage you to go. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm serious. Twitch.tv/SleepyTunes. Casper, I think I've known you for about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. Rocking the 1v1. Your streams are really good. I love that you play Patrol. Tell me what you're up to on Twitch, at twitch.tv/CasperCar with a 3.
I just occasionally throw it on if I'm soloing, if I'm feeling it. Solo streams, you can expect pretty much just gameplay and music with a lot of chat interaction. Group play, it's pretty much similar. Kind of just sit there, playing the game like I normally would, hang out, answer any questions if people have any, and maybe test a few things if people ask about it. Kind of just come in and talk.
Chat is saying, I think for both of you that they'd love to see more streams, and I agree. The conversation's great, the expertise is great. You both have been, Sleepy, you've been playing this game for as long as I have, I think. Casper, you're an MMO. I don't even know what's you kick ass and take names. Yeah, Fanatic would work. Yeah, Prodigy. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. So 2 awesome follows and definitely must have subs on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
Having me.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome.
Enjoyed it very much. Would love to come back anytime.
I would love to have both of you back because I not only from the playstyle perspective, but also just like the in-game knowledge, we really can't beat it. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I could not do this without our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/RamicMedia. We launched this back in November, and it's been incredible, the amount of outpouring of support. So I just want to go through very quickly and thank our Patreon supporters. We've got Chesser and Siambra and Pronder, who are all Beard Crew members. We actually have a tier called Beard Crew. That's the largest amount, the biggest support, the biggest contribution you can make to the channel every month. Thank you guys so much. To Borgio and to Beeb, to Nargothron and Shadow Dancer, thank you guys for being our tier 3 It's Not Over crew. To Bellamar McPherson and to Yoshi for saving the game, and to Arcanix, Extraterrestrial, Godsteam, and Gravity, Neomatrix, Ollie, Shout, Let It All Out, I swear to God, that's the name he gave, Keed, Sticky Note, Veneer Violin, and Bloodcore. You guys rock. Thank you so much for all the support. You too can support the stream if you like the content, if you like the giveaways, if you like the podcast, whatever. Twitch.tv/RamicOaken or Patreon.com/RamicMedia. Lots of fun stuff coming up. I forgot to mention the Realm War map. In fact, maybe I should stop. Oh, Ollie, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Very quickly, maybe we're not going to wrap this up right now. Very briefly, I just want to show you guys something that we've been working on that is very exciting. It is the new war map that we're in beta testing for. So this is a brand new thing that it just went live. Well, it's not public yet. It's still internal. But a very good friend of mine, Mouse or Winter, has helped me with this and has done most of the back end work for this. But it's powered off of the API that I've built for the game, or the data feed that I built for the game. And this is all in real time. All of this information, including, and it's all zoomable, including pop-ups. We're going to be adding all sorts of stuff to this, including claiming information, guild names, banners, keep levels, when it was last taken, stats on how many keeps were taken by a particular realm. We're only just scratching the surface, which is why I haven't made this public yet. But thanks to Winter for helping me out with this. A lifelong friend, really good guy. But I'm very excited to share this with the community as it develops. All of this work is being funded by, all of the time commitments being funded by Patreon supporters with the help of some very talented programming skills from Winter. But we literally could not do this without our Patreon supporters. So a lot of things to come. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, thanks to Sleepy. Thanks to Casper for joining me tonight. Until next time, be safe, wear a mask, take care of everybody around you in this crazy pandemic world that we live in. And we'll be back on Thursday with another RVR stream at 7:45 and more giveaways at 8:30. Take care.